Okay, I'm gonna hit start. Ready?
Yeah.
Hello, everyone. We're letting everyone get in the room and then we'll get started here. Thank you for signing up. We've had a ton of registrants, and for good reason, because we are going to be going over some really, really great divorce strategies, some divorce tips you might have never heard of. And not only are you going to hear it from financial experts tonight, but we also have an divorce attorney on, Morgan. She's going to be speaking soon. And we have the lovely Angela, who not only is a CDFA, but also a CDLP. So she works with mortgages when it comes to divorce. So she's going to be talking about that later on today. And we've got Elisa, who's in the back end in a lot of your documents and helping. And same thing with Lindsay. She's going to be making sure that you guys get all the links you need tonight and answer any questions that you put into the chat as we keep going. By the way, put your questions in the chat because we are going to be doing a Q&A at the end, and we are going to try to get as many questions answered as we possibly can in the time frame. And then lastly, we got James here, my brother, and he's going to be talking financially how to split some assets at one point. So you will be going through that. So that's kind of introduction of our team. Again, thanks for being here. I'd love to know where you're all tuning in from, like what states. New Jersey. I'm in New Jersey, by the way, but Morgan is Illinois. So we've got Angela in Texas. We're all over the place. So where are you tuning in from? Just put it in the chat so we can see what states you're tuning in
That's
from.
everywhere.
Oh my
Hawaii.
goodness.
Meet the Hawaii. That's amazing.
Canada. I saw Canada too.
Oh,
New York, Los Angeles. All right, so we got every state in here. Great. That's awesome.
love it.
So we're going to be going over a lot tonight. If you have a pen and paper, suggest bringing it out because a lot of these strategies are just going to come out of our mouth and you're going to want to be writing them down. So the first thing I kind of want to start with is that going through the divorce process is a very emotional process. But when it comes to the finances and legal perspective, you need to try to leave the emotions out of it. And that is why you need to make sure that you put a team together that can help you look at things logically and rationally and bring you out of that emotional state, right? So tonight you're going to be hearing a lot of tips that are strategies that can be inputted right away into your divorce case. And I want to know, like, what do you guys want to learn about the most? Because we're going to be talking about every divorce topic: alimony, child support, the family home, how to get on the mortgage, how to split up the assets. We're going to be going through all of this. But let me know in the chat, what do you want to learn most about? Alimony, child support, splitting the assets, um, all the things that come up during the divorce process, and there is so many, right? And that is why your head is spinning half the time while you're going through this process. Thing is that financial mistakes can lead to really long-term impacts. And this is why we need to make sure that we are analyzing the finances when you're going through a divorce because it's just not about right now. Yes, we need to split up the assets and we need to get them into your name, but we also need to make sure that you are going to be okay in the long run. That this is going to work out for you post divorce, right? And so when you're bringing financial experts on your team, they're going to help you understand where is every dollar, what is that, and is this going to help me in the long term be successful when it comes to your finances. So I just kind of wanted to start with that. We've had a ton of client results. This is just some of them, but it can show you what happens when you get in the numbers. When you take the emotions out and you actually look at this from a number perspective. So we've had some people where we've gone from a monthly alimony to a lump sum. We went from a 50K lump sum to a 350K lump sum. We've had some people that we proved it was a marital asset, and so it took the asset out of the case, and she kept the 500,000. We've had pensions executed where spouses were saying, "Hey, this pension is worth nothing. Turns out it's worth $1 million." Right? We've all heard that one. Angela's done a lot of waste claims where she's looked for clients and seen that they were dissipating assets, on alcohol or new significant others and gotten money back that way. When you dig into the numbers and you provide evidence, documentation, that is what changes your case and makes sure that you are going to get a fair deal. So we all know there's a million financial considerations in divorce, and we're going to go through a lot of these on this webinar. So some of them are, what is the fair market value of my assets? Do you need to get an appraiser? Do you need to get a business evaluator, right? What is this chair worth in my home? There's so many things that have to be appraised and looked at, and the value needs to be figured out, right? Angela's going to jump into this, but like, should you keep the family home? Can you afford it? Can you get qualified for the mortgage? Does it make sense for you long term financially? Next, what are the tax implications, right? So I had someone come to me today in a call and they're like, Marissa, my spouse is giving me all the 401k and they're taking all the brokerage. Is that fair? No, that's not fair, right? Because the 401k has got to be taxed every single dollar at a higher tax bracket than potentially the cash or the brokerage money. So it's things like this you need to be thinking about, and they could be things that are very detailed and you maybe have never thought about, or you have no education in this. And that's why you're all here, trying to better yourself, trying to educate yourself so that you can get a fair deal. So a lot of people are like, okay, Marissa, do I get a divorce attorney? Do I just hire a CDFA? Do I get a mediator? What the heck do I do? And this might be Angela Morgan. You might want to jump in here because it's very confusing to understand what experts do you need on your team. In my experience, the best combination is having a divorce attorney and a CDFA because the lawyer handles the law, right? And they're going to understand basic finances. A CDFA handles finances. They're an expert in finances and they only know the basics of law. So when you put the two together, you have someone who really understands the law, and then you have someone who really understands the finances. And this is where your best deal can come into place. Anything you guys want to add there?
No, I agree. I always say that. I'm like, you don't know, you don't know what you don't know, but I don't know everything, obviously, about the law. If somebody gave me a case law to study, it would probably take me 1,000 more times than it would take Morgan. And if somebody gave her like 18 complex tax returns for a self-employed business, it might take her longer than it would take me. So the benefit is if you're paying dollars per hour or you're paying for a package, you want to pay people for what they know how to do.
I couldn't agree more. And you're probably going to save money too if you
Mhm.
the CDFA. It's a lower price point than what you would pay your attorney over the long run. And they're the pros. Your attorney is also going to bring negotiating skills in addition to their knowledge of the law. They're going to know the other players, know the judge, hopefully know opposing counsel. That's critical. So they have that personal touch, that component of knowing how to negotiate, knowing the law, combined with really good preparation of someone who knows the numbers. It's a perfect combo.
Yep. And Morgan, by the way, so she's a divorce attorney. She's in Illinois, and she's here to help you guys with some legal strategy tonight. So I'm going to let her introduce herself. We're going to jump right into the law, and then we're going to get to the finances so that you'll get both ends of the spectrum. And so we can learn a lot when it comes to the legal aspect and also the financial aspect. So Morgan, take it away.
Well, I'm so excited to be here. I'm so excited to speak with a bunch of people who are doing this work to get themselves ready. Those are the clients I like to work with because you are going to have a much better experience if you come into your divorce with the right mindset, prepared as you can be. So yes, like Marissa said, I am a divorce attorney. I've been practicing for about 12 years out of Chicago. I'm also a mediator. So I take mediation cases throughout Illinois. I take all Chicagoland, the city, and the surrounding counties. And I also offer parenting plan consulting work across the nation because, as you all probably know, divorce laws, especially when it comes to finances, really vary state by state, especially with regards to maintenance or alimony. Some states have almost no alimony. In some states, there's a very specific formula. In some states, it's kind of, you know, no formula. It's very discretionary, up in the air. So this is a really important thing to consider when you are planning out your divorce is you really do need a lawyer. You need an attorney who's going to be able to tell you the law in your specific state and even in your specific county. Like how does this county,
Mhm.
how does this judge apply things? If you work with a CDFA, you're in great shape to have your finances prepared, to know what's a smart budget, tax planning for your divorce, but you may not know what you're legally entitled to. And so it's essential that you have that. Even for clients who are going through mediation, or even clients who come to me and they have worked everything out, you still need a lawyer because you need someone to go through the red tape of filings. It's very possible to do things on your own self-represented, but it's not easy. It's oftentimes clients come to me and they tried it on their own and then they say, the judge rejected all my paperwork. I have to take another day off work. I have to go to court. And worst case scenario, you've done your divorce, you did get a judge to enter it, but then you realize later that there were major errors, major omissions, or things were too ambiguous or left out. And it can cost you way more to go back in time and get an attorney to try to, redo those things. Um, the attorneys are also going to make sure that your paperwork is airtight so that you aren't going to have to, go back and deal with, unsolved problems. So if I was talking to my friend or my cousin or someone close to me, I would always tell them, you need to invest in an attorney. I mean, it really is essential. Even if you are just scheduling for a consultation to make sure you understand what your options are, you don't know what you don't know. And especially when it comes to parenting plans, I see this all the time. People don't even realize, even people who are working with attorneys sometimes, which really shocks me, what options there are for things you can include in your parenting plan. And these details matter so much.
Yep.
Totally agree.
Okay. How can you find an attorney?
A
Um,
good attorney. Wait, let's put good in there. I
probably
think
right.
everyone can find an attorney. It's like, how do I find a good one?
Uh, in it like anything, in divorce, there are so many good attorneys out there, but there are so many terrible ones. I mean, I truly I have done trials where the other attorney just sold someone a bag of goods and we went to trial and I won on every single issue and the other party had spent $150,000 in attorney's fees. And it's heartbreaking. And these are middle income people. They had drained their retirement accounts. They got money from grandma and grandpa to pay for this. I'll never forget, one of these cases, the attorney, was laughing outside the courthouse. He said, these people will pay for my kids' college. We'll be litigating this for the next 18
Oh
years.
my gosh.
Was it disturbed me. And that comment, I think of it all the time, was one of the things that got me into divorce mediation. Because
Mhm.
the thing I love the most about being a mediator is how much money it saves the clients. There's many great things about mediation, but the money saving, like who can argue with this? You're usually going to spend, I would say, like 1/10 what you would if you were to litigate. Okay, but how do you find a good one? I would say ask around, but know that asking your friends, just your random people that might not always get you a great referral. It will get you a referral, but is it a great one? I would really focus on asking if you know any lawyers, ask them. If you know other
Mhm.
professionals who are like law adjacent, if you know anyone who works in finance or just people who know a lot of people in their network professionally, ask them because anyone can tell you, oh, my neighbor hired someone and he's
Mhm.
divorced. I mean, they could be a terrible lawyer. So take the referrals with a grain of salt. And whatever you do, go do your homework online. You can
Right.
go on avvo.com and search for attorneys. Not every attorney has a profile here, but a lot do. And there's client reviews that will tell you a lot. You should also look at the client reviews on Google. I also want to put a plug for this network, Amicable Divorce Network. They have
Mhm.
chapters in many states, not all, but go to their website, see if they have a chapter in your state, because they have an amazing group of attorneys who are all vetted for being amicable attorneys who are competent, respected in their fields, but aren't trying to just make money off of people. And then finally, I would not just hire the first attorney you talk to. Schedule a few consultations. A lot of attorneys will do a free consultation for an initial client call. You can do a 20-minute or even 30-minute consultation for free with a lot of people, or you can invest $200, $300 if someone that you really like, only offers paid consultations. It's money well spent. You'll get more of their time, and you can also get some legal advice from them for those paid consultations. But like I said, a lot of attorneys will do this for free. Talk to a few people and see who you jive with. You want to find someone who, first of all, you can understand. Like in your consultation, are they just like talking over you? Are they even listening to you? And maybe that would be a person who could work better with someone else. Like maybe they're very smart, maybe they're a good lawyer, but it's just not a good communication fit for you. There's a lot of different styles of communication, styles of lawyering. So you want to find someone that you just feel right about. And that might seem a little dippy or woo woo, but it's real. Like you should trust your gut when you're talking to these people, even if you're neighbor down the street, really love this lawyer. If you're getting a bad vibe from them when you call, really listen to that because that's probably going to be a lawyer that is not going to return your calls or will keep sending you, to the secretary or something, and you're never going to hear from them. You probably are onto something. And also, final thought on that, think about what the attorney is telling you. Are they only telling you what you want to hear? If they're just saying, oh, sure, we could do that. Yeah, no problem. I mean, I would take that with a grain of salt. A lot of my consultations, I'm really reality testing with my clients and telling them, okay, here's what I think a court would probably do. No one can tell you what they will definitely do, but an experienced attorney is going to have some insight about, what your, kind of framework of possibility is. And if the lawyer you're speaking to is not giving you that, they may not know what they're doing or they may not care and they may just want your money and you're going to be disappointed later. So, final thoughts is really listen to your heart in those consultations. Don't write off to young attorneys. An experienced attorney, you do need someone with experience, or at least someone who's working with someone who has a lot of experience. But if you're hiring someone who's been practicing for 45 years and they're kind of like halfway out the door and they're maybe also not the most on it with their email communication, that can be different than working with someone who's really young, hungry, responsive, like eager to kind of make their name. Those are, I think, like your best bet.
Mhm.
Yeah, great advice.
Okay. Parenting plans. This is a question everyone is asking recently, and this is something that I've become even more interested in since sort of going more online and talking to people in divorces in other states. Because what I realized when I did that is that so many people are not getting like 90% of the advice that I give my clients when it comes to parenting plans. And a lot of attorneys, it seems like, just don't even go over the options that you can include in your parenting plan. And they're the most bare bones things I've ever seen. I mean, at its core, the essentials of the parenting plan are going to be the regular parenting time schedule and how you make decisions for the kids when it comes to things like medical care and education and things like that. But that is just like the bare minimum. There's so much more that you can go beyond that. So, something that I've recently started doing is these parenting plan audits. And this is something that I do in all 50 states. And it is not meant for me to be drafting your parenting plan from scratch. I mean, I don't practice outside of Illinois, so I can't and won't do that. But the underlying premise of parenting plans is very consistent, across the nation. And it's also things that you should be negotiating with your spouse. You don't want to let the random judge decide your fate with a parenting plan. So, when I'm talking with clients in these audits, I'm not only giving them specific language that they should consider adding and talking about different options for things they may not have even known they could include, but I'm talking to them about how they can negotiate, how they should broach these topics with their partner or with their ex. Because if you just, take everything you see online and like a big list of desires that you want in your parenting plan and just shove that across the table to your partner, or your ex, they're gonna balk most likely. They're gonna, just say, no way, that's way too much. It's an art. You have to have a conversation. You have to weave things in. You have to ask questions. You have to sometimes make them feel like they are coming up with some of these ideas. It's really, I mean, I think this is just a fascinating topic. And as a mediator myself, I've seen it play out. So I'm really happy to give people a lot of coaching specifically about how to mediate and negotiate your parenting plan. But some of the things I wanted to hit on tonight for specific things that you could consider including, one of them, I call this the magic language. This is when you have something in your document that says, if you write to your ex and say, I want to enroll my son in basketball, our son in basketball, are you fine with that? And if they don't respond to that within 48 hours, that could be deemed them consenting. You could include this in your plan that says if someone ignores a message, then that is deemed a consent. So you don't have to wait for them to enroll in summer camp or choose the new therapist. You present the information to them, you give them that opportunity, but you can have this sort of self-executing provision. Another thing I love including are deadlines. Deadlines for when you need to pick the summer camp, deadlines for when you exchange dates for your summer vacation. I would include something like everyone needs to, exchange their dates. Jane and John exchange their proposed vacation dates by April 15. And if there is any overlap, then Jane gets first pick in even years and John gets first pick in odd years. We always look for places to have tiebreakers, have clarity, and remove ambiguity. And beyond that, if your child is not enrolled in school yet and school choice is still an issue, put in a deadline. Put in a deadline that says this is when you have to propose your schools. This is when you'd have to mediate. This can help you stay out of court by making sure that people stay on task with getting information exchanged. But there are so many things. The list can go on and on about what should, I think, be included in all parenting plans. Who holds the passports? Do you need to require consent for international travel? What notice periods do you give before traveling? When do they give the flight itinerary? How many days in advance do you find out where they're going on vacation? For holiday schedules, I see all the time people say winter break, even odd years, mom and dad, but no more detail than that. And I get calls at Christmas saying, who gets the kids on December 26th because winter break started on, you want it to be so precise and so specific. And an attorney who has seen, I've probably done, I don't know, 1,000 parenting plans at this point, reviewed so many of them. I could do this in my sleep, looking through the holiday schedule, just scanning through it and seeing, oh, that'll be a problem. This will be a problem. Every other odd year, that's going to not work. And just getting rid of those pitfalls, and just finding out where there may be ambiguity, there may be conflict, or this is not what I think the parties intended, and addressing that now. So
and Morgan, a lot of people are asking, like, can you review my parenting plan? So Morgan can review your parenting plan in every state. So we'll have links for that. Lindsay and Elisa will be dropping them for you guys in the chat. But as far as like mediation, right, and being your attorney, that's got to be Illinois. But the parenting plan aspect, if you want someone to review it who has legal credentials, right? A lot of the people online throwing out parenting plans don't essentially have credentials. So she's a great resource for that if you need that.
For sure.
Yeah, and that's something that I choose my clients. I'm pretty choosy about who I work with. So because there's only one of me who's doing this right now, but I am offering those, very quick calls that you can book through that link where we can see quickly what are your issues. I'll scan through your plan and then we can discuss working together if we're a good fit for me to actually do that coaching consulting work about the specific language in the plan and the specific help for negotiating.
Mm-hmm. Mediation, our favorite topic. So Angela, Morgan, and I all love mediation. Morgan probably does a lot more mediations than us, but we do mediations as well. And so I'm curious to know, do you guys know what mediation is and whether you should use it or not? So mediation can be with or without lawyers. So that's an interesting part. You can have a mediator, you can have lawyers present, you cannot have them present, you can have CDFAs present, you cannot have them present. And mediation, the whole point of it is that you're talking with your spouse, trying to come to an amicable decision on how you are going to split things up, how you're going to sort through the parenting plan. And obviously, this is going to save time and money rather than sitting in a courtroom 10 grand a day talking to a judge who's going to make the decisions for you. So, with that, Morgan, continue on.
Yes, this is so true. And I think a lot of people don't even know like what is mediation. And I want to kind of demystify this. Like what actually happens? Like what goes on? Because I mediate cases all the time. So a mediator, if I'm serving as a mediator, I'm not the attorney for husband or wife. I'm not giving them legal advice. I am simply there to help structure a conversation. And a good mediator is kind of like a host of a party. Like you're making sure that the dynamic is right, that people feel comfortable. It's so flexible. I've done mediations where it's all on Zoom and the two parties are in two breakout rooms and I go back and forth between the breakout rooms and they never see each other. I've done mediations where we're Zooming all together and the parties have their attorneys. I've done them in person where sometimes we're in separate rooms or sometimes we're all together. It really just depends on the personalities in play and the comfort level that the people have. And a good mediator will tell you, here's what I think you should do. Here's how I would structure this. And I always recommend that you at least consult with an attorney when you're in the mediation process, because again, you don't know what you don't know. We'll always say that. And the mediator cannot give you legal advice. So you should know, like, what is my rough sort of potential outcome scenarios before going into mediation, and ideally prepare with a lawyer. I counsel my clients in advance of mediation extensively and make sure they're walking in really confident and knowing how to handle things. And a lot of how to handle things is for them to be good listeners, for them to listen, ask the right questions. You can get so much information in mediation from the other side, which I think is a really important thing that gets lost. But you also, yeah, you don't need to bring your attorney. I prefer it, honestly, when clients don't bring their attorneys to the initial sessions if they're comfortable with that, especially when we're talking about a parenting plan, because you probably don't need three professionals in the room to talk through the holiday schedule for your kids. I mean, you and your spouse are the ones who know the ins and outs of your schedules and the kids' schedules. And so bringing everyone together to talk through that, the parties together, is so essential, because if you think about what would happen without a mediator, you would call your lawyer, the lawyer would call his lawyer, that lawyer would call him, and then they would call.
Yeah,
It's
you
like
go
this
back and forth, and get nothing accomplished, basically.
takes forever. It can take 7 weeks to accomplish what you could do in 10 minutes sometimes.
Oh yeah, I was on a mediation today and they've had 3 sessions already with lawyers, gotten nowhere. Because it's just like arguing back and forth, arguing back and forth. And then we tried a more like calming mediation session today with no one present, just them talking through it, and they were able to come to some decision. So sometimes taking that pressure off too, and actually trying to, as you said, Morgan, listen to each other can be a great way to save time and cost and actually make decisions.
And you guys, something that I think is so essential that you should know about mediation is sometimes you can win something like for free, because sometimes all that the other person needs is to like say something and have you hear it. And people could be fighting for months or years about something, and then they'll kind of say their piece in mediation, and the other party will say, "Wow, yeah, I can tell you like that was really hard for you. I'm really kind of seeing it for the first time." And the other person will be like, "Oh, finally, I'll agree to all this other stuff that I'd been saying no to for years." Like it can be this sort of release and just speaking to one another. But it's also a much more streamlined way to share information, about finances. When I'm a mediator, I have both of the parties submit all their financial information to me. Maybe they've worked with a CDFA to prepare it, and it's all packaged with the bow and organized, ready to go. Then I will craft the balance sheet. I will run child support and maintenance numbers and talk it through with the parties, go through the balance sheet line by line and figure out how are we going to divide things. I'll also give them a lot of referrals too. Like if they don't have a divorce lending professional, I prefer them to someone like Angela. Or if they need an appraiser, I have a whole kind of list of professionals that I've worked with hundreds of times that I'm happy to share. but people want to know, how much does it cost? How long will it take? I'll give you some hard numbers, from what I've seen. Typically, my mediations are usually 3 to 7 sessions. I've had a couple that were just one or two and we just knocked it out. I've had a few where they wanted to meet, like a lot, 10 times, because they were more that type of personality that needed to move really slowly and like wanted to unpack every last detail. And that was just their preference. But honestly, usually it's more like 3, 4, 5 sessions and we can wrap things up.
Yeah.
Um, and after you mediate, you have your agreement. It's not binding until it's in a court order. This is really important. You need to take your mediation agreement and get it submitted to the court and entered as a divorce judgment or a court order. And that would usually require you to hire an attorney to just translate the mediation paperwork into the divorce paperwork, which is not hard. As an attorney, I take those cases all the time, and it's like $2,000 or maybe $2,500, inclusive of the filing fee.
Mhm.
Really need to go get it, submitted to the court. Mediators typically charge rates that are like maybe $200 on the low end to $1,000 on the high end. I think most mediators are probably like the going attorney rate in your area. So that's probably going to be like $300 to $500 an hour. Okay. So I'm a divorce lawyer, as you know, and these are the top 5 things that I would do personally if I was getting divorced. And it is stuff that I think will really change the ball game, for how you can approach your case. So first of all, I would not just blindly serve my spouse with divorce paperwork, unless, of course, there's a safety or like financial abuse situation that you need to go in on an emergency motion. Absent that, that is not the way to go. You don't want to set the tone of your divorce with a knock, 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 you've been served, aggressive, hostile, we're going to war situation. I would have a conversation. This is what I tell my clients. Have a conversation with your husband. Tell them that you've decided it's time, like you've interviewed some lawyers, you've picked someone, you've hired an attorney who practices amicably, because your desire is that you don't want to waste all of your money. You don't want to waste the money that should go to your kids on lawyers, on court, like, and he will agree with that. Who wouldn't? And you also don't want to harm your children. You want this process to be as low stress as it can be and not unnecessarily expensive. And he'll say, yeah, I want that too. And now you guys are both working towards this shared goal. And you're like, okay, like, how can we get there? What can we do together to problem solve to get there? And again, this is so different from this like boring battle camp mentality. And if you start in that vein and kind of always redirect to that vein, and it's not always easy. I mean, there's going to be bumps in the road, but a good lawyer and other professionals can help you. You're setting yourself up for success. I would hire mediators, avoid pit bull attorneys who just want money. Honestly, the pit bull strategy really does not work. I could talk a lot about that. And prepare. I would work with a CDFA. If you have a complex financial situation, get your financial documents in order, before meeting with your lawyer. Talk to a lending professional to see if you even qualify, for a loan. And I would always exchange the financial affidavit. Even if we came to terms on everything, I would still want someone to sign and say, these are all the assets, these are all the debts that I have. And
Mhm.
finally, avoid the court. Avoid going to a judge. The courts are there for a reason. Sometimes we need them. I take cases to trial. I do litigate, but it's a last resort. And as a lawyer, I can tell you the judges, most of them are trying. They're trying to do a good job, but they have such limited time. They have such a limited amount of information about you when it comes down to making a decision. And no one is happy. Like, nobody likes the parenting time schedule that the judge writes because they don't know, most of what's happened. They're going to have like the top of the iceberg in terms of what's happened between the two of you. So
Yeah.
you don't want that. All you'll get is money down the drain. Like, if you
Yeah, exactly. Awesome. Well, again, guys, we put the links in the comments for Morgan if you want to get a consult with her about parenting plans. You can do that in every state. But mediation and as far as being your attorney, Illinois, correct, Morgan?
Right.
And mediation just Illinois, correct? Because someone asked that.
Yes.
Okay. So reach out to her, schedule a consult. She's awesome. Thank you so much for giving your tips and educating everyone here tonight. And now we're gonna kind of switch here and go into the finances from the legal. So Angela's gonna jump in and talk a little bit about the family home. I feel like everyone that comes to us like, Marissa, should I keep the house? I see all your videos where you're like, I don't think I should keep the house. So we want to talk through the family home. What should you do with it while you're going through a divorce? And then Angela's going to touch upon some mortgage options for you. So definitely take notes as we're going through this. Go ahead, Angela.
Okay, so I am a CDFA, but I'm also a CDLP. I've been a loan officer for over 20 years. I'm just going to leave it at that, but over 20 years. And so I kind of got into the divorce specification about 7 years ago. And then that led me into the CDFA. But needless to say, I really specialize in mortgages and divorce. And so there's so many things that people don't know. The biggest thing I would say when you're, okay, I love do not rely on Zillow. If I have one more person tell me, well, my Z estimate is $8 million. I'm like, yeah, okay. It's like, that's not real. So, neutral third party appraiser is the best thing you can do to determine the value of your home. Do not, I know everybody's got a friend who's a realtor. I have great friends who are realtors. A CMA, competitive market analysis, is a great thing to get as a tip of this might be around what you could list your property for. However, it's still not an appraisal. It's not what your home is actually worth. It's not looking at closed sales and that sort of thing. So neutral third party appraisal, like Morgan said, she has a list of appraisers. Sometimes attorneys can recommend because then it's third party, it's neutral. Otherwise, you never know if somebody has a friend or whatever. So that's the cleanest. Obviously, option one, selling is the cleanest. That is the cleanest way. Marissa and I both talk about this. I am divorced and I got divorced and had a family home. And so I understand the emotional side of it so much that when people cry to me, like, my kids were born here, I get that and I hear that. It just doesn't always make it the smartest thing to do. Sometimes it is, though, in this market. Sometimes people are like, I couldn't downsize and have the same payment as I could have if I keep my house. That's why
Mhm.
speaking with whether it's me or another CDLP, it's so important for someone to say, here's what it would look like if you kept the house. Here's what it looked like if you sold the house and took your proceeds and put it down on a downsized home. What down payment would you have to get to be the payment you're comfortable with? Those kind of things. So that's selling the house, that side of it. Option two, getting bought out. Either you're going to get bought out or you're going to buy your spouse out. Again, we need the neutral third party appraisal to figure out what that property is worth. Figure out how much equity you have. It surprises me a lot. People are like, I don't know how to calculate my equity. It's the appraised value of the home less any liens that are against it. That would be, if you have got a HELOC, a first lien mortgage, those sort of things. People have asked, can I subtract costs that it might cost me to sell 5 years down the road when I sell? No, they usually don't let that happen. If you have repairs, sometimes. So there's a lot of factors there. Again, why it's so important to talk to
Capital gains.
Yes, capital gains. Exactly. And people will say, well, can we go ahead and calculate the capital gains now so I don't have to pay them by myself? No. If you're keeping the house, you're taking on that risk. You're going to take on the risk of perhaps having capital gains and paying 6% seller commissions, but you're also getting to realize maybe the property is going to appreciate, hopefully. So there's all those discussions. And then option three, and I'm not a fan of this. I don't know what Morgan thinks about this, but maintaining joint ownership. Here's my thing. If you can't live in a home with somebody and stay married and raise children together, why in the hell do you think you're going to be able to own a real estate property together? I mean, this clearly doesn't work in all other aspects of your life. And you're like, oh yeah, none of that worked, but we're going to be amazing landlords together. No, that's not going to work. So I'm not going to say never. Maybe you have a different situation, something to explore, but it does definitely, you've got to get a lot of legal language in there about who has rights to sell and
Yeah.
all that.
What happens if someone gets sick, loses their job, can't pay the mortgage? There's
All
so
the
many
things.
what ifs.
So many what ifs that it just makes it way more risky than any of the other options.
Yeah. And when it comes to affordability, because a lot of women ask us, like, how do I know if I can afford the house? Rule of thumb financially is that 30% of your gross income, it should be less than 30% of your gross income. So if you make 100 grand, your housing cost should be less than 30%, right? So that'd be 30 grand for the year. So that's just like a quick rule of thumb if you're like, can I afford this? But obviously when you work with my team, we do a lot more in-depth analysis to say, can you really afford this payment? Angela actually runs the payments, tells me what it looks like, and then we're like, is this an affordable thing for you? Because I can't tell you how many people are taking the home when they don't even know if they can get qualified for the mortgage. And then second, they get qualified, but they can't afford it ongoing and have to sell it.
That's
Yeah, I
fair.
think we also see a lot of times there's rental homes, right? You may have some rental homes. You got to keep in mind that you don't have the marital exclusion or you don't even have the individual exclusion when you go to sell it. So there's probably going to be capital gains there. You need to offset that versus the family home if he or she sells it. So just keep that in mind.
Yeah. There's so many. I always say usually the family home is the biggest asset and the biggest liability in most divorces. So it's so important to get the right guidance on this so that you don't make an emotional decision instead of a financial one and then regret it down the road.
And make sure your judgment too is clear about like if someone's going to refinance the home, so commonly there needs to be language that says if someone fails to refinance, then it is sold. You need to make sure that the things that you've agreed to, there's ways to actually enforce it if people don't follow the orders. This gets missed all the time.
All the time.
So I'm going to fly quickly through some of the division of assets and some of the finances. Just so you know, a lot of times once you get divorced afterwards, we help you plan for your future. And that's where some of this is going to come in. So a 401k is not the same as cash, by the way, guys. A 401k is a qualified plan. Anything coming out of this is taxed at ordinary income. And if you're under the age of 59 and a half, there's also a penalty. So keep that in mind. If you're going to split a 401k plan and you're taking all the 401k and the person's keeping the sale of the house proceeds, it's not the same thing. Pension evaluations, you definitely need to get the pensions evaluated. Marissa and Angela both can help you do that. They're very complex. So I highly recommend you maybe selling yourself short there.
Yeah, and with the pension, you can take it monthly. You can try to be bought out now. You can take it monthly at 65. It's all craziness. And I'm sure, Morgan, when you're negotiating pensions as well, it's somewhat of a challenging topic because of the options. So definitely work with your experts if a pension is involved. And I've had a lot of people be like, oh, well, you can take my 401k and I'll just take my pension and that's fair. You got to figure out what the value of that pension really is. Versus what is the value of that 401k? And we've done this analysis sometimes, and the pension's like 500 grand more than the 401k was going to be. It's like, what?
Yeah,
So you can't take someone's word for it. You need to do actual analysis.
Not to mention, you have to look at the option that your spouse or you choose. If they choose the life annuity option and something happens to your spouse, there is no survivorship. So you need to have a life insurance policy on them. It's highly recommended. You have to do it. I'm going to move through this pretty quickly. Like I said, one thing, Marissa and I just went through this. It is an absolute nightmare. If you have like 10, 15, 20 accounts and you want to split every single account 50-50, it is an absolute nightmare. Marissa and I would not recommend it, especially if you have a lot of 401k plans. There's ways to offset it, meaning you can take more of one 401k plan and your spouse can get the other one. Or they can take more of this brokerage account and you can take the other one. You don't need to split every account 50-50 because when you're actually signed off on the decree and you submit it to these companies, it is so hard to get the money over. It's taken Marissa and I on one client, we're on like 3, 4, 5th month of trying to get the dollars just in her name.
And that's with like financial planners, like guiding her through exactly what she has to do, filling out all the paperwork. Now imagine you have none of that and you need to get this into your name. It is very challenging to work with these companies, especially if you're splitting annuities. You can have surrender charges. There can be all kinds of problems. And with the 401ks, like James said, you need to create something called a quadro, which allows you to split the 401k without penalties or tax. So this all needs to be taken into consideration is how is this going to get into my name after this? And I think, no offense to you, Morgan, but it's one spot that attorneys like really, really overlook especially annuities. They will never put wording in about annuities, and then there's surrender charges, and it's like, who pays this? Now what happens? And it just becomes a mess.
Yeah, annuities are very, very complex. Before you get divorced, you need to consult with someone on them. And then instead of going over the Roth and IRAs, yes, you need to know the difference of them. Guys, you need to understand stock options. Okay, there's all different kinds. There's NSOs, ISOs, PSUs, and RSUs. All of them are taxed differently, and all of them have different vesting schedules and agreements. So if your spouse has stock options and you don't understand them, you need to get to someone that does, because you could really be leaving yourself short in these. And we find that very often because the
100%.
grant date and the vesting date are often very different.
Yes.
So you need to consult with someone on that.
Don't assume that just because the stock options or RSUs or PSUs or any of that aren't vested, that they're not still dividable, because they are. If they were granted during the marriage, then they are divided. And so, me being a financial, I was not a CDFA when I got divorced, but I was a finance person. I was an accountant, and I completely overlooked stock options. I was like, oh, well, that's his company. That's who he works for. Those aren't mine. And it ended up being like a very large number that I would have left on the table if my attorney at the time had not told me, oh, no, they were granted during the marriage. I was like, oh, they're not vested. They're not worth anything. She's like, oh, but they are. And they sure were. So always, always, again, just check. Even if you think you know, you probably don't. So ask an expert.
Yeah.
Point out
Yep.
too, like, this sounds really overwhelming, but it's like no one is expecting you to know all of this. I agree with what Angela said. Like, a lot of divorce attorneys don't know about this. They should, but they don't. You can be an incredibly smart person and not know like every last thing about an annuity and stock options. These are pretty complex things. So you don't know what you don't know. You shouldn't feel like, oh my gosh, I'll never learn this. This is just why you can be smart about where you get your advice.
You're in, yeah.
Yeah, and part of our thing is to help you understand these things and educate you and make you feel comfortable in making educated decisions. That's the whole point of this.
Yeah, I had a client today that was like, I got an offer and I don't even think it's a bad offer, but I just need to know for myself, like, what these numbers mean and what this all means, right? And you should go that extra length because this is a one-time thing. You're not going to redo it. So you want to hit it, or a home run on the first time. You want to make sure that this is fair and that you're doing your due diligence. And yes, it can take a long time and be frustrating and cost money. But at the end of the day, if you do the right job, you get the right knowledge, the right experts, you'll come out of this and you'll be better off going forward.
Agreed.
Yep. Lastly, we'll just talk about college planning. Typically, you guys can split these accounts. There's nothing crazy to go on there with the college planning. You can also use brokerage accounts for college planning. It's really up to you on how you want to split these assets. The last thing also I include in this is, I don't know if you have a slide on this, Marissa, but if your spouse has a business, you need to get a business evaluator, possibly. If you're not sure if you need a business evaluator, you can talk to Marissa, myself, or Angela, and we'll help walk you through that. But a lot of times, if your spouse has a business, there could be a value to it, and you could be selling yourself short if you don't at least explore that option.
Yeah. Yep, and one more piece on the college. So typically, what we were talking about this funny with Morgan the other day, and most states, they won't force you to pay college. And you can work into your decree like, okay, well, we both have to contribute 500 to a 529, and then we'll use that money towards college. But Morgan, you were saying something interesting in your state, right? When it comes to college.
Illinois is unique. There are other states that do this, that in Illinois, you can force your ex to contribute to college. And that's true for anyone who's gone through divorce or a parentage case if they were not married. And they will make the parents contribute after looking at their finances up to the amount of University of Illinois' tuition, the state university here. So that's $36,000 in addition to travel and living expenses and healthcare. So it can be a huge amount of money. And so that's something that you should consider and see if your state has that. you're able to bring a petition for contribution to college. You can do this long after your divorce. You don't have to necessarily have it in your divorce decree if it's something that your state allows.
Yeah. I see a lot of questions coming in. We're gonna try and get to as many as we can at the end.
We're almost there.
We're almost there. We're gonna speed through the next slides and hopefully get to answering questions.
Debt and divorce, James, kick it off.
Oh, you want me to kick it off?
No,
I
I'm kidding.
was
I was
waiting
just
for
kidding.
you
They sign over the slide at every webinar. They're like, who's going to talk about
I'm
debt and
kidding.
divorce? I don't know why. It doesn't seem like a fun topic, but
I'll do it. No, I mean, and jump in, James, on your stuff. But no, debt and divorce is always a big thing. People are like, okay, well, thank God he has like $80,000 in credit card debt, but I'm not on any of them. I'm like, sorry, sister. You know, a lot of states, it does depend a little bit on the states and when it was taken out. But most marital debt, if it was taken on during the marriage, it's going to be marital, whether your name's on it or not. You're probably going to have some share of it that you're responsible for. So figuring that out, knowing exactly what you owe on everything, I always recommend highly at the beginning of the divorce process, ask for a credit report on both parties and get a tri-merge credit report. That means all three bureaus, Experian, Equifax, and TransUnion, because some of them report different things. Get that started at the beginning, run another one when you're getting close to the end, because that way you can tell if someone has run up a credit card, if somebody has, you know,
taking out something.
I had a client who made all these large payments from the joint account. So they had a negative $6,000 balance on his card so that he was going to take it in the divorce. And then like he would have all this credit. So when they pulled the credit report, it was a negative 6K balance. Like they kind of busted him. So again, just a good reason to start. Do one at the beginning and do one when you're near the end. Yeah, any debt created still in your name. The one exception to that is student loans. That says that on here. Typically speaking, student loans are your own, except sometimes if you take them on during marriage, that can be treated differently. Morgan, how does that with Illinois? I know like it's so different in every.
It's different in every state, but I think that's correct. I mean, in Illinois, I've literally never seen student loan debt not be considered separate. Honestly, never. I mean, it's technically possible, yeah, that if you do it during the marriage, it could be considered marital debt, but the courts really see this as an investment that person is making in their
career.
Potential. Say, well, you should be responsible for it.
One thing I want to mention real quick before we jump to alimony is on debt. If you borrow, because a lot of people, and I myself did this, and I think my mom's watching, so thanks, Mom.
Hi, Mom.
You're going through a divorce and you have to borrow from your parents at a certain point just to, like, till you're going to get to the end, do a promissory note and have it notarized and have it. You can't just near the end of the divorce go, oh shit, I owe my dad $50,000 and have it entered in as community debt. But if from the very beginning you have a promissory note that's been executed and notarized between yourself and your family, whether it's your parents, a friend, whatever it is, do that so that it can be marital debt and introduce that way instead of trying to introduce it at the end, which typically doesn't go over very well.
Good point. I think alimony, in my opinion, is the most contentious point of divorces. What do you think?
Agree.
Definitely, 100% every time.
Like the assets, it's like, fine, I got to give you 50%. Like that's what I have to do after a long marriage in most states, right? But the alimony is like, you do not want to pay alimony if you're involved and you think you have to, and you'll do everything not to pay alimony a lot of times. And unfortunately, it's different in every state. Some states like Illinois, and Morgan can touch more on this, but they have a very formal calculation. Other states, no calculation whatsoever. You're literally just
alimony whatsoever if you're in Texas.
Or if you're in Texas, no alimony, right? So it's all over the place. Again, why you have to talk to experts who can analyze this for you. But the rule of thumb is this: longer your marriage, the longer you potentially are going to get that alimony. If you show you have a need for support, more chance of you getting it. And obviously, the longer term marriage, the longer your age, and depending on your health, those can all affect it, right? There's so many different criteria that can affect it depending on the state you're in. And again, some states have formal calculations, some states have no calculations and no alimony. In other states, you can get permanent, but you got to negotiate your way there, right? So it's all over the place. And it is a contentious part of the divorce process, which is why I encourage you to do as your homework here, to put down a budget on paper and say, what am I going to need?
Mm-hmm.
Right? And even if you're the one who has to pay, what are you going to need? You know, take your income, minus out your tax, minus out your budget. Is there any money left over?
Right. What's your ability to pay? Yeah.
Yeah, I
Um,
think
Go ahead.
once you're awarded it, I think one of the most important things that people overlook, and I saw one of the questions come in, is you need to get life insurance, right? What happens if the spouse is paying you alimony and something happens to him? You need to get a life insurance policy so that that person would be the insured, but you're the owner of the policy. You pay the premiums because now you control it. So he can never get rid of it, or she can never get rid of it.
And also, same thing with disability. If you have a surgeon, you know, husband, he hurts his arm, he no longer can work, you're probably not getting paid, right? Unless he had a disability and policy in place where he's still collecting some type of income. And again, this is state dependent, but things to be thinking about. Some states will allow you to add a cost of living adjustment onto the alimony where your expenses are going up every single year by inflation, right? And right now inflation's really high, so your expenses are going up 4 or 5%, right? Your eggs, you know, a year ago were like $6. Now they're like 9 or something, $10 in the store. So if your expenses are going up, why shouldn't your alimony? And that is the point of the cost of living adjustment, is that your need is going to increase over time.
Personal expense.
Oh, lump sum. That's what we wanted to talk about.
Yes.
Yeah. So a lot of people say, Marissa, I want a $1.5 million lump sum alimony. Okay, that's great. Is there assets to support that? Or are you going to leave your spouse broken in the pits, right? Like, and if you're going into court, and Morgan, maybe you can jump in more here, but from my understanding, they're not typically going to award a lump sum of the alimony.
No, that's only really going to be done by agreement. And courts will often like encourage people to agree, recommend that as a settlement. A lot of times they'll say, okay, the lump sum, we calculate what it will be, and then give them some discount, because they're giving it to you
Right.
up front. I mean, there's risks on both sides. The obvious benefit is you have all your money, you can do whatever you want, you can remarry, you can cohabitate.
Exactly.
But downside is like if your ex like increases their income substantially and they're making a ton
Then you
more,
missed out.
yeah, that's it.
And
But
also, I just have to jump in from a mortgage standpoint. If you want to buy a home or
Oh, yeah, you might need income.
like that, if you take a lump sum, we cannot use that to qualify you for a mortgage. It needs to be a monthly income stream. So if you don't need that, that's fine. But if you do want that or need that, then keep that in mind that you want to have that.
I think everyone's situation is different.
Yes.
Obviously, sometimes people need to take the alimony monthly.
Yeah.
If you're in a situation where you could choose, you may want it as a lump sum because, as Morgan stated, you get it all up front. However, you do need to discount it because you're getting it all up front. I don't think a lot of people understand that. You're not going to get the full value of the alimony straight away. But what Marissa and I also like is to take what we call a men's approach. Take a little bit of both. Take some up front as a lump sum, and also take some monthly. So if your spouse's income does go up, you can get some of that too. So everyone's situation is different. You really need to look at your situation and see what works best for you.
And again, if you have a business owner spouse, you got to get expert. It's just too complex. You got to see what's running through the business. What are they writing off? Are they writing off personal expenses and showing no income? It's all kind of craziness. If there's a business, unfortunately, and you want to do your due diligence towards that business, you're going to have to get other experts involved, like CDFAs, forensics, attorneys, all the things potentially. And I'm not someone who says, like, I think you need to go spend 60 grand because there's a business. I think you can do it in an appropriate way where you're not spending a ton of dollars, but you're still getting a good idea of what that business looks like.
yeah, and if you think about it, like you invest a little bit of money in that legal help or the CDFA help, it might result in you getting like $20,000 more in alimony a year for, 10 years or permanent. I mean, that we're talking a lot of money.
Yeah, and we showed those dollars in the beginning, and a lot of time, Morgan, honestly, it's hundreds of thousands of dollars.
Easily. I mean, you could easily, get $500,000 less than what you're probably entitled to if you're not having someone closely look through those business tax returns and the books of the business. No doubt about it.
Right.
Morgan, why don't you jump in on child support?
Sure.
from
Okay.
your attorney perspective.
Okay, so child support, obviously also different formulas for it in different states. Some states will look at just what is the child support payor's income and just do a percentage of it. Other
Yeah.
states like Illinois will look at both parents' income. They'll look at what is the parenting time schedule, and there's kind of this like spectrum where if you have 50-50, it's one. If it's 55-45, it's a different formula. And it just changes so that there's not this one cliff of if you have exactly 50-50, there's no child support.
Yeah. And I
But
don't think a lot of people get that child support is mostly based off income and not necessarily that we're splitting the kids 50-50.
right, no, you can have a 50-50 schedule and there can still be child support that's owed in a lot of states because if one parent makes $200,000 and the other parent makes $50,000, that's, there's going to be some child support. That's
Mhm.
too much of a gulf. I want to point out too, the life insurance tip is huge for child support too. If you're receiving support, you need life insurance. You need it. And the courts will definitely, in my experience, make the child support obligor maintain life insurance. I would also keep in mind that you can negotiate for your child support to be trued up in a lot of states. This means that the parents will exchange their financial income at the end of each year. And if the person who paid support earned more, that they will automatically have to pay. And there's different ways of putting that into your agreement. Sometimes it's just a percentage. They pay an additional 15% of anything they earn over a certain amount. Sometimes you have to contact someone to run the numbers and recalculate it. But keep that in mind. If someone has variable income, if they have a lot of income that's commission based or
Mhm.
overtime, something like that, you may want to ask your lawyer about doing a true up. And
Mhm.
also, don't forget, child support typically only covers the basics. It covers housing, food, and clothing in my
Yeah.
state. So on
Mhm.
top of that,
Same.
you've got health insurance, out-of-pocket medical expenses, child,
Curriculars,
Extracurricular
extracurriculars, yeah,
stuff.
other things.
and you can also negotiate to include things like auto insurance, cell phone.
Please do that. That live from my mistake. Put
Yeah,
cards in your decree.
That'll return to me more than you think, especially if you have boys.
If you have 3 teenagers in 6 years, yeah, it's expensive.
so don't miss those
Mm,
in your agreement. Those are typically
then-
split, by the way, proportionately to
right.
income. So if someone's making 200,000, the other's 100, and maybe like 65%, 35% how you
Right.
divide expenses.
So I've seen a lot of people ask tonight, how do we know if I need a CDFA? Well, I think personally everyone could use a CDFA, but if you've got a lot of complex financials going on, or just a lot of financials in general that you might not be privy to or have past knowledge about, that's why we're here. We analyze all the financials. We're going to look at pensions. We're going to look at stock options. We're going to look at your business and say, do we need to go get a business evaluator? If you've got someone that's high conflict, doesn't want to hand over financials, going to be even more challenging. So, these are the reasons you would use a CDFA. And the whole point of Angela and I is to add money back into your case. That is my entire goal, is that when I'm bringing you on, I see something that can add dollars and hopefully lots of dollars back into the case, whether that's showing that X asset was premarital, or proving why you need more alimony, or doing an actual pension evaluation, or saying, oh, in the stock options, you were not calculating this right, right? So that is the point of bringing a CDFA on. And obviously, for Morgan, in a legal perspective, you want to know what you're also entitled to from a legal perspective. And that would be the point of bringing a divorce lawyer on. So a lot of you on this call might already be clients. If you are, by the way, hello. Thank you for being here. And if you joined and you are already on our team, you then know about our consulting package. And we like to offer a flat fee package. We understand that getting divorced is very costly. And usually when you have to bring an attorney on, you might have to do retainers and you might have to keep paying. to keep going with your attorney. So we have a flat fee consulting package that allows us to get involved and to help you prepare for divorce and get a financially fair deal. What comes in that? Well, you got to fill out a financial affidavit. Do you want to pay your lawyer, $2,000 an hour to do that? You want to pay me a flat fee package who knows more about finances, right? So one thing Angela and I do is help you through the financial affidavit. We look at all your assets. We look at pensions, deferred comp, 401ks. I mean, as Morgan said, she can go through parenting plans in her sleep. I can look at financial documents in my sleep and just be like, yep, that's it. Because this is what we're doing all day, every day, right? Negotiation, obviously, of course, and that is best when it's coincided with your attorney. Review of all the financial documents. Angela, going over family home options. Can you afford it? Can you get on the mortgage? Can you get underwritten? What are my best mortgage options? Do I need to show income? If so, how much? Budget review, and that's going to be important for alimony and showing your need. Post-divorce financial planning. A lot of professionals don't include that in their divorce planning. You want to make sure you are thinking about your long-term future. When I get out of this and I get this X amount of deal, am I going to be okay? Can I retire when I want to retire? Or am I going to have to work another 30 years to make this work? Right? So you want to be doing that retirement financial planning alongside while you're getting divorced, because this will give you the best outcomes. Pension evaluations, alimony and child support calculations, needs analysis to show you need alimony and child support, or if you're paying that you might not have the ability to pay. All of this is for a flat fee. Right now, for 48 hours, if you jump in our consulting package, it is 20% off. I know some of you have been waiting to right now because we've been speaking to take advantage of the discount. So the pay in full option was $5,000. It's now $4,000. There's also a payment plan. We know, again, this is a challenging time. It's hard to front money sometimes. So we do offer a payment plan, which was $1,500 a month for 4 months. Now it's $1,200 a month for 4 months with the discount. And Elisa, what is the discount code?
It is webinar save 20. So just use that at the checkout screen. There will be a place where you can put the coupon code.
Yeah, by the way, we work in every single state. I saw that in a bunch of the questions. We can work in any state, and it's a flat fee unless you go over like a crazy amount of meetings and it's just too much. We've had it happen maybe once out of, I don't know, 150 clients. Yeah, we've had it happen once or twice, so it doesn't happen often. But if it does, then I get on the call as the bad guy, and I say, look, it's too many meetings. We got to slow down, or else we have to charge you more. But it rarely happens, so it's a flat fee.
Yeah, and in transparency, we do that because one, we know how costly it is. Two, we really want to help you and help as many people as possible, and that is really true. We're negotiating over 200 cases currently. And also, we want to save you some time and money if possible, so that when you get to your attorney, like Morgan, as she said, everything is in a neat little package. Here's my net worth. Here's my needs analysis. Here's my budget. Here's my financial affidavit. Now go do your lawyer thing, right?
That price is so good. I'm like, kind of honestly, like, you will pay a lawyer 3 times that and not. I see a lot of the comments. People are like, I'm $10,000 in and like nothing has happened. Just pushing people around.
We act as a catalyst on your behalf to try and get things done, pretty much. And a lot of times it works to get things done faster. As Marissa said, to bring dollars back in your divorce, we have a ton of examples of that.
Yeah, right. I have skin in the game.
Oh, go ahead, Morgan.
Your company, but I'm really impressed, and I've truly, like, for everyone watching this, the advice that Marissa is giving and Angela's giving and her whole team, like, it's spot on. Like, as a lawyer, I connected with them because I saw some of their videos online, just like many of you, and I was like, yes, that's true. That's true. That's like, people don't know this, and I think all of us, like, we actually really care about educating our clients. It's not just about, I mean, we care. Like, they wouldn't be presenting it to you in this way if they didn't feel strongly about helping people get divorced in a better way. So I really admire what you guys are doing.
Thanks, Morgan. We like you too. So if you need an attorney, go to Morgan in Illinois, or if you need help with your parenting plan.
I'm gonna just answer like about 5 questions in the chat in one sentence. It's
Go ahead.
like,
Go ahead. Go ahead.
basically, people are just saying like, how many meetings do you get? Like, how's this? There's not a set meeting. It's not like James said, if you need 18,000 meetings in, a month, that obviously that's not going to work. There's going to have to be an extra charge or something. But we don't have, because sometimes during divorce, there could be a lull. For 2 months, you might need nothing. There's nothing going on. No dates are set, no new information. Everything's just at a standstill. And then maybe discovery comes in and you have tons of information and you're like, oh my God, I need help right now. So it's not a set, like you get this many meetings, you get this many minutes on a call, this and that. But we just have to be reasonable because we are taking care of other clients too. And so as long as everybody's reasonable, like James has said, we've had like maybe 1 or 2 clients. So we've had to be like, slow your roll.
Yeah. I mean, typically I'd say that it's probably like 5 meetings on the base, right? You have like an initial meeting, data gathering, and we go over the information with you.
Alimony, child support, usually a meeting with your lawyer too. We will get on with attorneys. Hando and I are on with attorneys all week long. We
Mhm.
join mediations as well if we need to. So we're there for you. Again, our goal is to get you the best deal as possible and get you out as quick as possible with the best deal, and then help you on the post side keep living the way you want to live
Right.
and thrive financially. So that is our ultimate goal. If you have a lawyer, you can hire us. If you don't have a lawyer, you can hire us. If you're in the beginning of your divorce and you haven't even filed, you can hire us. If you're
Mhm.
3 years in, you can hire us. If your mediation's in a week, maybe don't hire me, but I'll try.
Yeah.
We really
So,
people
love-
like, listen, my mediation's a week and I need you. Okay.
like Edith said, GDR has helped kick my attorney into high gear. I will tell you, we say like there's some great attorneys out there. There's some that literally it's what's that saying? The squeaky wheel gets the oil or grease. What I don't even know. My mom says it all the time. But whatever that is, sometimes people are like, they're not responding to me. They're not like, okay, let us get involved. We'll reach out. We'll just say like, hey, we're taking over the finances. We need this, this, this. Here's what we have. What do you do? And all of a sudden they're like, oh, okay, okay. Well, and it does kind of light a little bit of a fire. So that's just a side benefit of, us being involved too.
And on the post-divorce side, so James and I are licensed financial planners. We're also CRPCs, which is Certified Retirement Specialists. So we'll do retirement planning, investment planning. We'll look at taxes. We'll go over your cash flow and your budget. So we really do true financial planning, like holistic financial planning, where we're looking at all aspects of your financial life and making sure that you're going to be okay going forward, or setting a plan to make that into effect.
Yeah, I think the toughest part too, right? If you've never handled the finances before, and then you got to go split 10 accounts, get it in your name, somehow learn about investing, learn about retirement planning, learn about life insurance, learn about all these things, it can be very difficult. So we're not going to abandon you. We'll be with you through that process. We'll help you get divorced. Then hopefully we can work together if it was a good partnership ongoing.
Mm-hmm.
And also the course, by the way, so we do have a course. There's like 20 videos. There's all kind of resources. You get that in our package because, again, we're here to educate, and there's a lot of educational videos in there for you to watch, and guides and budget sheets and resources. So just want to let you know, with sign up, you as well get our course. Let's
I
get
do
to
want
the
to say,
ahead,
Marissa,
please.
before you continue, I do want to say, if you don't know if the consulting package is right for you at this time, or you still have questions you want to ask us before you commit, you can book a call with us, an intro call. It's 30 minutes for $99. We'll lock in that discount price for you if you are not sure, and you decide to purchase after your call. So just keep that in mind, and I'll post the call link in the chat right now.
That's a great point. If you're not sure if you need the consulting package, or you just want some advice and see how it's going, book a call with us. On that call, we'll determine if you need it or not. Honestly, if you don't need our consulting package, a lot of times we're going to say, look, you don't need us. Everything's already in place. We're not here just to make money. We have enough clients, trust me, enough work. We would love to help you if you need help, though.
Mm-hmm.
Yep, and because we're throwing in the course and giving a 20% discount, the 99 doesn't come off the 4,000.
Yeah. And
So should we get into answering some questions?
Sure. I
Yeah.
just saw Do You Serve California? Just to say again, we can do all
Yes.
50 states and Canada. Gonna throw that out there. So that's what we can do. It's not, can this be paid with gift cards for the funny?
I think some people have paid us with
I
gift cards.
think so too. I think so too.
So yes, I think gift cards will work. And if something doesn't work, let us know. We'll try to work something out with you to make it work.
Yes. for sure.
So let's go through some of the questions here. So I have a question of can I borrow from my 401k to pay for my attorney? That's a great question. A lot of people don't know that you can take a loan from a 401k and that can help you with expenses or with your attorney or costs if you have no access to money. So that is a really good option. And you're just essentially you're paying yourself back, right? So you take the money out and you got to pay yourself back over time, but you're not paying a bank, you're not paying someone else, a broker firm, you're paying yourself back into your 401k. So that is a very good option.
Right.
And Morgan, how have you seen people pay for attorneys? How else? Cash, credit cards?
Yeah, it's typically credit card. People ask all the
Mm-hmm.
time, like, am I allowed to use like a marital credit card or withdraw from the joint account? Yes, yes, that's marital money. Um, and sometimes they'll get a loan. Sometimes if you really have no money and you don't have access to credit, this is the time to call up your network and ask anyone and everyone loan
Yes.
from friends. You just need, I mean, realistically, to get a lawyer, probably like $5,000. You can find someone who's good to get your foot in the door because they can go ask for fees from your spouse later, but you're going to need to pay someone first to file that motion to ask for attorney's fees.
Right.
All right,
Someone
let's go
said,
through some. Oh, go
what
ahead,
if you,
Marissa.
what if you have a CDFA, but they aren't helping you with any of this?
Then you fire them. I'm just kidding. Kidding.
I mean, listen, I always am a believer of honesty. And if I don't feel like I hire someone and I don't feel like it's going the way that I like how it's going, have an honest conversation. I feel like people are so quick to get rid of people. And if you just had an honest conversation of like, hey, I like to be communicated with in this way and this much,
Yeah.
probably could change a million relationships out there. So I would say be active in telling the experts you're working with, like how you like to be communicated with.
Right.
Yeah.
And again, I'm going to answer about
Lawyers, too.
eight.
I
Oh,
mean,
go ahead, Morgan. Go.
I think that's really good advice. And you're right, not to just leap to firing someone because you've already invested time and money into them. But yeah,
Yes.
get on the phone too instead
Hey,
of
I don't like it this way. I need to be communicated this way. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
What I was going to say is on the I've seen so many questions about I'm on the deed, I'm not on the deed,
Mm-hmm.
I'm not on the mortgage, this and that. Again, do not assume that because you're not on the deed, you don't have community interest in that property. You most likely do if you've lived in it when you were married. If you are not on the mortgage, you also can refinance it into your name if you want it. If you're not on the mortgage, you can also assume the loan into your name if it's assumable and you want it. Again, there's so many factors here, but I get so many people so stressed out. They're like, I'm not on the deed. I've lost everything. I'm like, you didn't lose anything. Like, it's great if you're on the deed. I would always advocate to be on it, but if you're not, there is community interest, even in not a community property state. There's community interest that develops by the fact that you are using marital income to make mortgage payments and things like that. So again, talk to CDFA, CDLP, your attorney, whatever. Just do not assume you're out of luck because you're not on the mortgage or the deed, because you still have a lot of options.
And also don't assume that just because your spouse maybe had it premarital or inherited it, that you're
That's
not
it.
entitled to it too, because they could have commingled it.
Mhm.
In some states like California, the appreciation on the home, even if they owned it separately, can be brought back in. So
Mhm.
there's all kinds of things. So again, why you need to, be talking with the experts to make sure that you're really taking everything into consideration.
Right.
Oh, Social Security, that's a good one in divorce. You want to
Oh,
talk about that, Angela?
Well, so a lot of people will say, like, do I need to put that in my decree about Social Security? But just so you know, that has nothing to do with your divorce decree. That is run by the Social Security Administration, and a judge can't even overturn the Social Security Administration. So if you are married for more than 10 years, you're not remarried, there's these stipulations. You can call the SSA and ask them. You usually have to have your marriage license, so go ahead and dig that out of the woodwork. But you need to tell them, here's what can I get and at what age? And they will tell you. And it has absolutely nothing to do with your divorce decree. So don't worry about it's not in your decree. You didn't address, he doesn't have to approve it. I don't care how many times he tells you you can't get it or she tells you you can't
Yeah,
get
you
it.
can collect half of your spouse's if
Yeah,
if it is higher than yours,
than
and again,
yours.
you don't need their acknowledgement or
To,
anything.
to check
Exactly.
to check yours too, go to
Yes.
ssa.gov, put in your social security, put in your date of birth. You can go check what your currently is at, and you may have to request your spouse's statement to see if his is greater than yours.
And Morgan, I'm going to let you jump in here because this is Morgan's like highest touted video she's ever done that went viral was the best advice, which I love.
When I met was this video, which is like this really easy,
Yeah.
but it's really usable, is when you're requesting financial documents from your spouse, ask them for their social security earnings statement.
Mm-hmm.
It's not
Mm-hmm.
not their social security payment that they're going to receive. It's like a chart of every year that they've worked and all of their taxable income. And we're talking like Medicare taxable. So it won't pick up a couple of things, but it's pretty limited. Like some county or state or federal employees might not have Medicare taxed income, but like most income is Medicare taxed. And it's a great starting point. You can see every single year, like not even just during the marriage, but like their whole working life, what was their total Medicare taxable amount. So if someone says, "Oh, my income's only $100,000 now, but for the last 10 years it was $500,000," it's really good, evidence that you can use in court, and no one can really object to it because it takes them 2 minutes to go get it online. It's very easy to obtain. So yeah, I have a video about that where I include the language that I
It's
use.
really good.
Yeah,
You
that's
really
a
go
great
follow.
point. That's a great point.
Yeah.
No,
Definitely should try and
that
get
is
that.
literally how because I saw that and I was like, I've never thought about that. I never thought to ask. That's brilliant. I love it. And so I put that in my list. Marissa does too, now of everything we tell them to ask for because it does show, especially if somebody's like, oh, I'm just not making that much more money anymore, or I'm, my income has dropped off and this and that. And earnings history tells a lot about, especially a judge can see through that. If you see a quick drop right before they got divorced, it's pretty telltale sign.
A
Uh,
lot of people are asking, how do you find hidden assets? So maybe we should talk about that for a second.
yeah, so I mean, hidden assets are people always say like, "Oh my gosh, he's brilliant. He's hiding all of his assets." This is my opinion, is cash is hard. So if you have a spouse who deals in cash, that's tough because it really is hard. Unless you have a private investigator following them around, watching their cash transactions, that's tough. Other than that, paper doesn't lie. There are transfers, there are deposits. If somebody has crypto, I don't care if they're running it through Venmo, you can get Venmo statements. If they're running it through PayPal, you can get that. If you see transfers in and out of an account. So money tracing, when you get your discovery and you get, years worth of, let's say, bank statements, credit card statements, that sort of thing. That's what we're looking for. Out of the ordinary transfers, deposits. Sometimes you look at a pay stub and whoa, there's, the majority goes into the joint bank account, but then there's this other percentage that goes into a different account. Then we know that's where to look. So it really is just a lot of it is paper tracing. Can something get biased? Yes. But for the most part, especially in today's, you can't walk up to an airline counter and pay cash. You can't walk into a hotel and pay cash. So there's almost always a paper trail of most things that people do.
Yeah, the biggest thing I see with hiding assets is a lot of the stock options or selling just mutual
Yeah.
funds or stocks. People think that they just sold them and spent it all. A lot of times it just transferred to another account. So you
Right.
really just have to follow the paper trail, as
Just
Angela
trace it, yeah.
said. And even if you can't find, a statement of the next account, at least it probably went into the account. You got to get to your attorney. You got to start asking questions and all those things. You'll know where it went though.
Right. And I've seen a lot of people ask about separate property, just as some really quick. If you had something prior to marriage, the burden of proof is typically on the person who's claiming the separate property. So if you had a house prior to when you got married, start digging now to find the papers from when you bought the house and also a mortgage statement from when the month and year you got married. And that way you have that to kind of show what you're, same thing with a 401k or other
Yeah.
plans like that. You need to show your separate property. And then this is another thing Morgan taught me, that the growth on that separate property can also be introduced depending on the state and the exact situation. But it's not always just that one amount of separate property. You can also introduce the growth on that as well.
Yeah. And again, guys, if you're like, I'm not sure if I need you on my team and I'm not sure if you do this, I saw someone said, do you do a waste claim? Yes, we do waste claims within our package. But if you're not sure what's included, book the call now. That locks in the 20% discount for you. If the call is not booked, then it will be the increased pricing. So if you have questions, we can answer them on that call. We can go through your personal situation and you can kind of decide at that point what you'd like to do or not. And yes, we look into the waste claims. Typically, we're looking. We've done a lot of waste claims recently, Angela. We've had one where there was an affair going on, and there was tickets in the girlfriend's name.
Yeah. By the way, American Airlines and Southwest puts your name on the credit card statement. So, yeah.
Yeah, just so you know.
Yeah, it's pretty clear and simple. And so,
Someone said, I saw here someone was asking, what are your recommendations for high net worth people in New Jersey for their attorneys? Look, Marissa and I and Angela, and I'm sure Morgan does as well, we have a whole list of attorneys that we like and work with, especially if you're in New Jersey, New York, Connecticut. We have people, Angela has ones in Texas, but we have them all throughout the U.S. So if you're looking to work with us, if you're going to book a call with us, we can discuss that on that. And you may want to book a consultation. As Morgan said, you want to interview a few attorneys, not just one, but we'll definitely give you one name that we think has helped our clients in the past.
Yeah, for sure.
Oh, Texas. Oh, so someone's saying 23 years, Texas. Can I get alimony?
Before you answer, I gotta hop off this now.
Okay.
Go do some of my legal work before.
Yeah, go ahead, Morgan. Thank you so much for being here.
Thanks for joining.
Yes. I'll answer on Texas really quick. Is just I have seen it go a lot of ways in Texas. What I will tell you is if you have a large amount of assets, the likelihood of you getting, and they're not going to call it alimony ever, they'll call it spousal support or spousal maintenance, but the likelihood of you getting that with a large amount of assets is not high. But they will take the division of those assets and spread it over time to give you a monthly income. So there's a lot of ways around it. Again, I do have a great network of Texas attorneys in other states too, but mostly in Texas, just because I have been here for so long and I got divorced in Texas. I have a lot of experience.
You got the ins and the outs.
Yeah, exactly. So yeah, Texas is the toughest state. I will say one of the toughest states for alimony, and also child support is capped, which is not common in most states as well. So if you do have Texas questions just in general, reach out to me. Happy to help.
Virginia attorneys, yes, we have them. Book a call.
Yes. Yeah.
Please claims you need help. Yes, book a call.
Yeah. Booking a call is the best way to figure out in 30 minutes. And I will tell you, and I think Marissa's, I know has done this too. If somebody's like, hey, I rent right now, we have a checking account and a savings account and a car payment. Like, do I need you? I'm literally going to tell you, you don't. I will say, you don't need me. Like, just divide by 2 on those things and move on and save your money. You don't need it. But if you have any kind of complexity, self-employment income, retirement assets, pensions, 401ks, IRAs,
like stock options. Yeah.
Right. Definitely you want help in this, because otherwise you're going to leave money on the table. I'm telling you, as a financial person, I almost did.
There's just too many things. As you guys have seen in an hour, well, we've been on here an hour and a half. We've probably talked about 300 different topics in this. And this is just covering the surface. This is just like gliding over what I can get out to you guys in an hour and a half, right? And so there's so much more. And so, again, we want to help you. We want to make sure you're getting a fair deal. You go through this once. Don't make the mistake of not paying for consults and figuring out if you need certain experts on your team. And again, the more eyes you have on your deal, the better. You might hear something you never thought of, and that could bring in hundreds of thousands of dollars to your case. So book the call. It's $99. It's going to be worth your time. We're going to go through different strategies on the call, even if you don't become a client. But then if you do become a client or want to, you get to hot lock in the 20% discount that is only available if you book the call or if you buy the package in the next 48 hours. So
And one,
again,
a couple people have asked, who do I get? Like, if
Oh.
if Angela answers, is that the only person? No, we are a team. You guys, we work together. So no matter if I'm the person you take your 99 call with and you sign up for the package, you are still going to have James, Lisa, Marissa, Lindsay. You're going to be communicating with our team because there's times if you need to transfer a bunch of assets, that's not my wheelhouse. I'm going to James and Marissa on that. If you need a mortgage, they're probably going to ask me to jump in and help with that. So this is a team effort. You are not just get one of us, you get our whole team.
you get the entire team, which is a nice part because you're getting licensed
Exactly.
financial
You get
planners,
a lot of expertise.
Yeah, by the way,
CDFAs, mortgage officer.
if you have a amicable divorce and you're like, I don't want to go through attorneys and spend all these dollars and all this, but you have a sizable estate, Marissa, Angela, myself, we've helped both spouses sort of come to conclusion on the assets and how to split them, what's fair. We've done it before. We don't do it all the time, but we've done it before, and it's going to save you a lot of dollars. So I saw someone say, what if both spouses book with you? We've worked with both
We
spouses.
work with both spouses, and sometimes we work with you and then bring your spouse in and
Yes.
have
Yes.
conversations, and we try to work through them to save you cost again. Because if you're sitting in a mediation room with lawyers and your mediator, you're spending at least $1,500 an hour. That you're in that.
And by the way, some of the points you brought up earlier, I didn't want to say too much earlier, but a lot of the lawyers don't understand some of these financial aspects. The annuity thing was just a recent thing that happened to one of our clients. We had to split 3 annuities. She got stuck with all the surrender charges of those annuities. Nothing she could do. The surrender charges were quite significant too, $2,000, $3,000, $4,000 on each annuity. So if you don't understand these things, you could be hurting yourself.
Mm-hmm.
And again, attorneys won't necessarily understand that side because it has to do with finances. And same thing, like I wouldn't know a very specific local legal thing. All right. So again, if you want the best team possible, you want both people on your team. And if you can find a way to get both people on your team, that is going to be your best outcome.
Right.
Hands
And
down.
I want to say this because I wish I would have said this when Morgan was still on because she agrees with me on this. But every once in a while we get a client and they're like, my attorney is mad that I hired you. They're so mad. They said I shouldn't have. I'm wasting my, that kind of thing. And I'm like, okay, what person who's advocating for you would be mad at you for paying your own money to bring more expertise onto your team?
Yeah, to get more knowledge.
To get more knowledge. So you have to think about that in your head. If you do run into, and it's very few and far between, we've dealt with that. But if you do, you just have to think carefully about why would this person be mad that I want more expertise? Maybe because I'm going to take away some of their billable hours or whatever the case. Or maybe they have their own person. Like, I want you to work with my person, my CDFA. And we have a case like that going on right now, a very, very high net worth case. And the attorney was like, I want you to work with my CDFA. And she said, I'm more comfortable just based on this knowledge. So again, go with your gut. If your attorney's pushing back on you hiring an expert to advocate for you, I would question that. Morgan, said from the very beginning, she's like, I love when my clients have a CDFA because it makes my job easier. It makes us all more effective and more efficient. So always keep that in mind.
I just want to say one more thing before we wrap up tonight. Some people have been asking, they've been trying to book a call and they can't get an appointment for a week or two. If you need an earlier time frame to speak to us, just email us. I'm going to drop our email in the comments. You can just reach out and we'll try to accommodate and fit you in if there's any earlier availability.
Yeah, I mean, it's got to be super urgent to get in a week or two, to be honest with you. Obviously, we have other meetings. If it's just that you want to meet with us, don't worry, we'll get to you. Don't worry.
Yeah.
We've done this before.
Have
We'll
like
get to you.
mediation next Monday.
Yeah, if you got a mediation coming up, let us know.
Yeah.
And so I was just laughing at this. Someone was like, Who just wrote this? They're like, I want to be a Greco.
Look,
By the way, I'm not their mom. Everybody, so many people have, and I'm like a little bit offended, but also complimented, but I'm not their mom. I'm really just, I've been like, oh, you're the mom. I'm like,
Nope, our mom's not
but
on
I've
here. But I
seen,
guess Angela,
but
your
I've
mom's
seen
on
your
here.
mom. I've seen your mom and she's beautiful. So I'm gonna, like I said, I'm complimented. So I do get that a lot.
Best cousin, I like that. Yeah,
Yeah, there you
or
go.
like the fun aunt or something.
Yeah,
Yeah.
okay, I can be the fun aunt. I'm a fun aunt. I'll
Yeah,
be
so last question says, what is a COLA rider? A COLA rider is something you can put on alimony, you can put on pensions.
that.
Basically, what it is it keeps pace with inflation. So your benefit gets increased each year by usually what the CPI is. CPI is just a measure of inflation. So if inflation's like 3%, you're going to get 3. If it's 4 or 5, you get 4 or 5. Usually is how it works. Different in every scenario.
So we are going to be emailing to the links, so you guys should get them to your email in case you miss the consult call with us or you miss the consulting package. Again, if you book a call, locks you in. Even if the call's 3 weeks from now, we'll know you booked now.
Mhm.
Marissa, can I speak on how amazing your team is? Oh, thank you. I don't know if we can let her speak. I don't know how to do that.
Don't either. But yeah.
What should we have ready for the console? I would love if you knew like your assets and your liabilities. So if you know like what is approximate house value or like what do I have in the bank? And if you don't know that, don't worry. It just can make the conversation easier. But other than that, you just need to bring yourself and describe to us what's going on, and we're going to try to help you the best we can.
Yes. And if you don't know what you need to get, we'll tell you on the call.
Yeah, that's true too.
What you need to get.
Someone today, Lisa Marai, she's like, went through like 30 minutes of chaos, like all different things. She's like, just tell me where I need to start. And I was like, yes, this is the one thing you have to do right now.
Okay, somebody said, can you talk to my CDFA on the console call? I don't think so. Like,
Yeah, that may be a little weird for us to talk to another CDFA.
Yeah,
But if you're having problems with your CDFA, have an
Or if you want a second opinion, just book with us and hear our opinion on it and go back to your CDFA after.
right, for sure. Yeah, otherwise it might be
Yeah, regarding the discount.
I see what Natalie's saying.
Yeah, regarding the discount, you got to book within the next 48 hours is how you're going to get the discount.
Either a call or buy the package, yes.
Yes.
And we'll know if you booked a call, yes, we'll apply the discount.
Yes.
All right, awesome. Well, I hope this was helpful. We really do try to bring as much education as possible. As you see, we're here for an hour and a half. Brought a divorce attorney on for you guys. We try to answer as many questions as possible. If you have further questions, we threw our email in here, but it's gdr@getyourdivorceready.com. gdr@getyourdivorceready.com. We can answer any questions there if you have further questions. We're going to be sending replay out, so you'll get that. You'll also get the consulting link with the code to get the 20% off and also to book a call. But again, we really appreciate you all going here, and we really look forward to working with some of you.
Yes.
And happy Cinco de Mayo.
Oh, yeah.
Yes.
Oh, my gosh.
So enjoy a margarita,
Settlement,
everyone. You earned
Oh,
it.
we forgot that. We were like, we're going to bring margaritas, and we were playing around. We're like, maybe we should call this like Cinco de Settlement or something. And then we're like, yeah.
Okay, we forgot the pinata and margaritas.
We forgot the pinata,
Okay.
Again, if you have questions, feel free to email us. 5 yes. And we look forward to talking with you. I see a lot of people booked calls already.
Yeah, and we are going to be doing, and there is going to be a recording for people who signed up, and also we're going to be doing clips like on social media, on our pages, just showing like different conversations that we think were key that people had a lot of questions about. So be sure and follow Morgan. Also, her link is on our pages. But just to, all the common questions we keep seeing come across, we'll try and, answer as many of those as we can.
Yeah, and I thank God for TikTok too, because I learn new things on TikTok every day, for real.
Me too.
How to cook, how to go buy sales at Walmart or something.
All my recipes are on
All your recipes.
Yeah. They really are. I think TikTok's the new Google, so yeah.
Yeah, it's great. All right, guys. Well, have a great night. Again, thanks for being here, and we'll see you all soon.
Take care, everyone.
Bye.